two. Check, check. You could. Check, one, two. Check. check.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening again, everybody. We want to welcome you to this special meeting of the Jackson City Council. We don't have a quorum, but we are in order. No action will be taken. We are here tonight for several presentations of work that's been going on for a while through the Department of Planning, One Voice, with what is called Connect Jackson, which is a valuable resource, and I want to applaud all of you for being here. Just before we get started, just a few housekeeping. It was presented at the door that whatever color sheet of paper you have represents the ward that you are with. And so that we won't have to do a whole lot of moving around during breakout sessions and everybody could kind of already be in the same place. And it might already be like this. Thank you. If you would, let's try to go ahead and coordinate that now. I believe that the colors match the signs. Is that correct? It should already be on. Hit the bottom right here. All right. So I think if I'm reading right, if you're yellow, if you have a yellow sheet of paper, you need to be on this side. And yellow represents housing. So it's not a breakout by wards. Categories and topics. Okay. So the confusion, if there was slight confusion about the color paper meaning your ward, that is not what it means. It deals with the topic or the concern. So right here we have housing, administration right here. Right here we have opportunity. Over here we have mobility. Over here with Ms. Foote we have neighborhoods. And then over here to my far right we have environment. And so that will represent the breakout session that you will go in once we get into the conversation. All right? So thank you all very much. And if you have a sheet of paper and you thought it was by ward, but you actually want to be in environment and you have an orange sheet of paper, I think that's fine. We want you to be where you're passionate, okay? All right, so before we get started, as Council President, this is not City Hall. I cannot welcome you to the chambers, but Bishop Crudup can welcome you to this wonderful place called New Horizon, which represents a new horizon for Jackson. I will ask at this time if Bishop Ronnie Crudup Sr. will come and welcome us and open us up with a word of prayer.
Let me say good evening to everybody. And on behalf of all the good folks of New Horizon Church International, we do welcome you to this place. And it is our wonderful privilege to host yet another meeting of the city. And so I want to say thank you to the Council President, Councilman Banks, and to the entire City Council and everybody for making this possible. If anything we can do to make your stay even more hospitable, then certainly we want to do that as well. Restrooms are outside, and so listen, if you see me and you want any other questions, we'll answer whatever question, okay? Let's pray. Father, how we praise you for the privilege of this time. Lord, we thank you for the city of Jackson. Help us to make it the best city in the United States. It doesn't just happen. We have to work at it to make it happen. Give us your grace and your blessing. We praise you for it all. And my prayer is in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop Crudup. At this time, colleagues and those that are here representing administration, I would like to take the opportunity to open and to close this meeting in honor of Reverend Richard Temple Middleton II, who is a longtime community advocate and person, pastor over in the Jackson State area. A lot of you knew him. His sister served on the school board. I believe she's still serving on the school board. And so we would like to open and close this meeting in memory of him, and we want to continue to keep his family in our prayers. Right now, we'll go by the agenda as printed, and we will make the best out of this. Want to thank the Department of Planning and One Voice and Connect Jackson for all of the wonderful things that they've done to help posture our city to be all that it can be. Item number 1 is a presentation of what Connect Jackson is. And at this time, I will turn it over to the Director of Planning and Development, Ms. Jordan Hillman.
So good evening, everyone. First, I want to say thank you to New Horizons for being more than willing and rolling out the carpet for us to be here today. We don't have a venue that can accommodate this many people safely, and also live stream and microphones, so we're very much in thanks to the team here at New Horizon and Bishop Crudup specifically. Second, I want to thank everybody that has come out tonight. It is always difficult to get people to turn out for the engagement event when the time it is actually the time and the place to talk about what we are trying to achieve. So I just appreciate everybody that's taken the time to be here tonight. And I also appreciate the City of Jackson staff. If you're a City of Jackson staff member in any capacity, could you please just raise your hand? I just want everybody to see how many City of Jackson staff members are in the room listening tonight that do all kinds of things for the city. So we thank you for being here and being in participation. And lastly, I want to recognize that we do have some planning commissioners in the House. They are another appointed body that serve the public here at the City of Jackson and are tasked with reviewing and approving this plan as we move forward. So I just also want to recognize that we have our planning commissioners here tonight. If I could get the presentation up, we'll get started. So again, I am Jordan Hillman. I am the Director of Planning at the City of Jackson. And I will be walking you through this planning effort and introducing a few guests along the way. We will do our best to get through this timely and hopefully have some engagement and actually get a chance to talk with each other about some solutions and some priorities in a minute. But in the event that you still have something to say when this night is over and you need to get to us, please remember we have comment boxes outside. We have a comment box on our website at connectjxn.com. And we are on Twitter and Facebook, so if you hashtag ConnectJXN, we will find it and we will respond to it. We are more than happy to continue listening beyond this particular meeting, and we hope to continue to engage with you as we go forward. So, with that being said, the Connect Jackson team is made up of the City of Jackson Planning Department, our Central Mississippi Planning and Development District. Where are y'all at? I see Patrick and Dave in the back and Gray over here. Our One Voice Mississippi, located here in Jackson, a nonprofit. They have been our engagement partner. We also have our planning board, our mayor and council, and of course you. You're a member of our planning team. This is a product of the group's collective vision. So what is Connect Jackson? Very simply put, Connect Jackson is the new comprehensive plan for the City of Jackson. It has been almost 20 years since we adopted our last comprehensive plan. Don't know about y'all, but the world has changed a lot. We did not have the internet in our pocket in 2002 when this last plan was done. And the City of Jackson has changed a lot in its demographics and its needs. Connect Jackson is going to be the framework for us to realize our collective vision for the city of 2040. So it's a 20-year plan. It's the highest level expression of the city's vision and the playbook we use to achieve that vision. Connect Jackson is a look back at the foundational systems that built the City of Jackson and the metro into its current state. It's a look forward at who we are today, and it's a look at who we are today and a look forward at who we want to be. We can't look back without acknowledging the deeply rooted inequity and disparity at the foundation of the city, and we can't look forward unless we respond to these foundational issues. So with that said, why are we planning? Why now? We want to be proactive about our future. We want to analyze and identify the factors that are shaping our community currently. What is happening in our land use? What is happening with home ownership? What is happening with our real estate stock? What is happening with our abandoned properties? What are those issues that are the building blocks of how our city is currently sitting? We want to build a platform for our land use laws. At the core of everything that we talk about today are actually the land use laws that we make decisions based on. We want to respond to changes since the last plan. I can think of many things that have changed since the Fabric Plan was adopted. And we want to build consensus for future decisions. We want to remove barriers to investment that are caused by our out-of-date planning documents, and also because the state of Mississippi law requires it. That's not the most important point, but it is an important point to consider. We're actually required to adopt a new plan every 10 years. It's best practice to do it every 5 years and to do a revisit and an audit of your plan every year. So we've been a little out of date for a little while, but here's our chance to fix it. So how will we use it? We'll use it as our vision. It's the highest level expression of what we want to be. We'll use it as our framework. It's our blueprint for how we get there. We'll use it as our policy. It's a compass that helps us make decisions. We'll use it as our actions. It's the playbook for actually making the vision happen. We'll use it as our branding. It's a messaging tool to communicate what our vision needs, what our vision wants to be. So who will use it? The Planning Commission and Council use the plan regularly when making decisions about rezonings and land use planning and land development regulations. It makes the base for all of those things to be decided. They're complex and they're often not thought about, but they're very important components of how a city makes decisions and how neighborhoods come to be the way they are and where businesses can locate and those sorts of things. The administration will use it when setting funding priority and capital improvement plans. City departments and staff will use it to set work priorities. The planning department will lead the implementation of the initiatives and projects to implement the priorities that are put forward. And the public can use it to hold us accountable and to help us make our decisions consistent with what we've identified in this collective vision. So to date, our timeline has been this. We started in September 2020 with a project kicked off with a joint planning commission meeting and a city council meeting. Then we immediately started with our engagement efforts with surveys and focus groups and interviews, and we continued that effort until May of 2021. It was a difficult effort given the pandemic, and the original intent was not to do this during a pandemic, but we didn't think we could wait. So from that point, that ends phase 1, and we move into our phase 2 engagement efforts, and that's where we sit tonight, kicking off phase 2. We're gonna look back at the vision we've developed from your engagement and our framework elements that we've developed and get you to help us validate that we heard you right, if we missed something, and what we need to add and make adjustments to. From here forward, over the next 3 months, we will have framework meetings throughout the city on the specific issues where we jump a lot deeper into them. So tonight will be very surface level, hit the high points. Then we will take the time to take your engagement and put it into policy recommendations and bring those back to you. We will come around with the different topics throughout the city and engage in a deep way on those specific meetings. So if you're interested in any particular issue, follow us on the website, follow us online, keep an eye on the media. We will be announcing further meetings over the next couple of weeks. We'll continue with online engagement, and then in fall of 2021, all of the components from what you hear today and what you hear over the next couple of months, we will draft into a draft plan. We'll engage on that one more time, and then hopefully sometime in the late fall of 2021, we will be adopting this plan. I can't adopt this plan. That is where your city council comes to the table. So it's very important that this is a collective effort. For those of you I see taking photos of the presentation, we will publish this to the website so that you can get a full graphic format of it, and hopefully we'll have that up by tomorrow morning for you. So with that being said, I would like to invite Nishambi Lambright with One Voice Mississippi to give a quick walkthrough of what our engagement to date has looked like.
Good evening. Thank you so much to Bishop Crudup. Thank you to President Banks and the other council persons who are in attendance tonight. Thank you for having us. This has been a very interesting and exciting time. As Jordan said, when we first started talking about the community engagement plan, it was before the pandemic. We did not know what we were facing in terms of being able to engage people virtually. mostly, but I think that we did a pretty decent job, and I just want to thank all of the neighborhood association folks who participated in focus groups, all of the JSU students, all of the neighborhood folks and business owners who participated in the focus groups. And thank you to everyone who completed a survey. We know that it was really hard to be engaged in a virtual format, but you did it, and I think we all are happy that we survived this pandemic and still getting through it to the other side. So thank you so much for helping us to collect over 2,100 surveys. Over 3,000 people were engaged with our community engagement process. In the beginning, we wanted to make sure that we communicated with folks in the best way possible. So we wanted to make sure that everyone had access to the survey, that people were able to participate in the focus group, and we also conducted stakeholder interviews. In addition to that, we also attended community meetings to talk about the process. One of our major roles in this, we're not planners, so we don't know all of that architectural and engineering stuff, but we do know community engagement. And so one of our roles in this is to make sure that citizens in Jackson are involved in this process from the beginning to the end. And so that's our commitment to you. So in addition to the 2,100 survey responses, 14 focus groups were conducted. Over 70,000 flyers with the survey on them in the link to the survey were placed in water bills. And we also conducted a number of media appearances and attended neighborhood meetings. And of course, the town hall meeting tonight is the next phase in this process. And just to provide a little demographical information about the survey responses, almost all zip codes were covered. Our goal in the beginning was to make sure that 5% of each ward were covered and represented in terms of the survey results. And so the highest participant in the survey responses was from the zip code 39211, and then the next highest was 39206. And then some of the other ones were evenly distributed after that. In terms of gender, males outdid the females on this one, and that's a surprise. 63% of survey responses came from males and 33% came from females. And in terms of the age representation, that also had a pretty good representation across the board from the age of 20 through 60. So we had a pretty good representation in terms of the age too. Racial respondents, 58% of the respondents were African American and 40% Caucasian and 2% other races or didn't identify. We also, of course, adjusted for certain gaps in the surveys. Early on, we recognized that we had a gap in participation in South Jackson, and we reached out to Councilman Banks, who helped connect us to neighborhood associations over there, and we definitely filled that gap. And we also represented some of the gaps in terms of the focus group responses as well. Some of the top themes of the survey were crime and safety, infrastructure, and public schools. And of course, we're gonna talk about some of those tonight, and even though we're not focusing on crime and safety, when we talk about our infrastructure, we know that our infrastructure and our services and a lot of these other issues have a direct connection to crime and safety. In terms of the top 3 things that people said if they could change would make Jackson better, you said crime and safety, again, number 1, infrastructure, number 2, and schools, number 3. And when we talked about barriers to finding housing in Jackson, Number 1 was availability of quality housing. Number 2 was availability of affordable housing. And number 3 was access to down payment and assistance with financing. When we look at some of our focus group results, they mirrored some of those survey results, with the top 3 choices of our focus groups being food choices and access, crime and safety, and business business support in limited jobs. Some of the major themes that showed up in the focus groups were equity in distribution of resources, aging city assets and improving infrastructure and amenities, and community capacity building to foster economic and social resilience. So those were some of the major themes. This full report from Phase 1 will be published soon as we go throughout the rest of the planning phase. So you will be able to see the full report with all of the survey results and focus group results. And again, I want to thank all of our focus group participants and folks that completed the survey. And I want to especially thank our partners at JSU, Mississippi Urban and Research Center, and Urban Planning Department. Thank you so much for all of your help. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Chloe.
So Chloe will join us in just a minute, but I will continue the presentation from here. And I want to echo Ms. Lambright in thanking JSU and their team for assisting us on this project. It's been a pleasure to work with them. So from this point, if we could go back to our presentation, we want to take a few minutes to talk about what we heard. We hit some high points in the presentation from one voice just now about the big picture items, but as we dug deep into your comments and the answers that were provided in the survey and our conversations throughout our meetings, we were able to kind of see some trends. And they went a lot deeper, of course, than just saying we need to tackle crime, we need to tackle infrastructure, and we need to tackle business opportunities. So from this point, we actually started developing our vision and our elements. And the first thing I want to do, if you'll show my presentation slides, please, is talk you through what Connect Jackson's format's going to be like, because it helps us understand what we're doing today and what we're going to do the rest of the way through. So next slide, please. Connect Jackson is based on a few elements. The most important element being the City of 2040 vision. The second important element being the commitment statement, and the third element being the frameworks. We're going to go over all of those tonight. The next elements are the policies and the projects, the implementation, and the final plan. Those are the things that are to come over the next couple of months until we get to the final adoption of this plan. So the first thing I want to share, and I want to say keyword, this is a draft because we are still engaging with us tonight. We want to know, did we get it right? But this is a draft of what we see, based on our engagement, the 2040 vision for the City of Jackson. In 2040, City of the Future, our neighborhoods are more resilient, attractive, and safe. Our neighborhood organizations have tools for agency and self-determination. We have improved access to affordable and healthy food in all neighborhoods. We have increased availability of quality and affordable housing. We have a diversity of housing types that meet the needs of our community. Our economy is expanding and creating opportunities for generational wealth. We are growing our population with dignity. We have improved access to capital for investment in our underserved communities. We have improved mobility, connections, and accessibility throughout our built environment. We have improved and increased access to parks and recreational assets. We have reconnected to the natural environment. We have improved transparency, engagement, and communication. We continue nourishing the city's soul and reconciling with our history. We continue to be a resilient city, community, and people, and our communities are the leaders we have been looking for. So I believe that was provided on your agenda. Is that correct, Zakia? Yes, so you do have that. You have some time to reflect upon it. Feel free to give us an index card response to it tonight. Feel free to sleep on it and send it in tomorrow at connectjackson.com, connectjxn.com, or send it to me any way you can think of. We'll take it no matter which way you want to give it to us. The second part of this is our commitment statement. And for this section, I'd like to ask our Deputy Director of Planning, Chloe Dotson, to come up and share with you both the commitment statement and a little bit of history and a little bit of a story about how we came to this conclusion that this needed to be included in this plan.
We want to commend you again, young man, for doing such a great job. Y'all give him a hand.
I don't feel right standing up here without, saying amen. I feel like I gotta say that up here. So our commitment statement is really founded in the history of Jackson. If you can put up the PowerPoint. So this plan is founded and motivated by the desire to create better and more equitable communities with clean environments, affordable housing, open space, accessible transportation, and quality educational opportunities. Planners over the years have created healthy conditions for some people and for some communities, and other communities have been deprived. And a very important piece of this plan is that we understand how different policies and practices over the years have grown beautiful communities for some and have left other communities in desperate conditions. If you can go to the next. So connecting with history as our guide, so planning for equity, which is really the foundation of our commitment statement, means that we recognize historical patterns and practices that have had insurmountable influence and negative influence on communities of color and communities that are low to moderate income. Planning for equity means that we understand our history and use that history as a guide. It kind of is that old saying, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. Next slide, please. So we have talked about it before, but inequality, the lack of equity is deeply rooted in the foundation of the city of Jackson. I really don't have to go into that too much because every day I think we live and experience some of that. The harm created has affected generation after generation. So we see that in our blight, we see that in our crime, we see that in our infrastructure. But the negative effects have been compounded over time. We know that the trauma is visible. We see it in the blight, in the poverty, in the disinvestment. We see it in the quality of our housing and in our education. And we see it when entire neighborhoods have been kept away from the table and their voice not heard. Next slide, please. Some examples, I want to bring some examples to the table. When I talk about understanding different policies and principles and rules and regulations that have happened over the city's past that have had this type of influence on our communities. 1934 New Deal, it was a federal program created for created home ownership opportunities, but it required segregation and it only ended up creating home ownership opportunities for people that were not of color, so Caucasians or whites. There were actually redlining maps that were used to deny investment for homes and for businesses. Federal Housing Administration required loans only to go to white folks within white areas of Jackson, so you couldn't actually lend to a black family if they were located within that redlining district. So it ended up creating white-only suburbs, and we see the influence of that even today. Another example is 1954 Slum Elimination Program. It actually targeted those communities that were mostly neighborhoods of color that were disinvested in by the New Deal of 1934. I'm just going to show you a couple maps real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Next slide, please. So this is a redlining map of 1934. The two areas that I've highlighted are Medgar Evers Avenue and Ferris Street neighborhood. So this is 1934. So the red areas and the yellow areas, were known as hazardous, and so they would not lend in those neighborhoods. And that includes businesses, commercial establishments, and the FHA homeownership opportunities. That's 1934. Next slide. 1954. This is the slum elimination program, in which they targeted the same communities that were disinvested in through redlining. I've highlighted Medgar Ave and Ferris neighborhood. So the point that I want to make today is that the community's voice is pertinent to understand and to set goals for our city, our comprehensive plan. But without understanding the frameworks and different policies that have led to the disinvestment that we've seen, it's difficult to get to that goal. So really what we want to do is combine the goals of the community, but then structure the policies within a framework that acknowledges history and acknowledges different policies and practices that have influenced negatively our communities. There's one more slide, I believe. So our commitment statement, again, it's founded and grounded within the framework of understanding our history, like the New Deal of 1934, the Slum Elimination Program of 1954, even the effects of integration and how that has changed our demographics and our structures. But our commitment is to acknowledge the inequity that is deeply rooted, acknowledge that it has had compounded traumas. These policies and practices have actually led to compounded trauma within our communities. We commit to investigating these systems and policies and practices that maintain inequity, and we want to document and display these results. We will commit to connecting with our history, acknowledging those practices and those policies that have had that effect in our communities, and use those as a guide to frame the solutions and policies that we come up with today. Thank you.
So I think Chloe said that really well, but if you take that 1934 redlining map with a few exceptions, those neighborhoods that were disinvested in at that time are still some of our most disinvested in neighborhoods. Modern day redlining is still occurring. There are entire zip codes that it's almost impossible to get a loan in this city, and that's today. That's not 60 years ago. So we have to be very honest and real about the issues we're facing, because if we want to address housing quality and we want to address abandoned properties, we have to come to the root of what is actually going on in the background. So with that said, I would like to jump into the framework elements. So we've taken the vision and the commitment statement, and we've boiled it down to 6 elements that we can organize within. Y'all are going to get the opportunity to engage on these elements in just a few minutes, and you may reveal that we missed one, and maybe we need a 7th element, so this is still very much draft. But the way we've organized it is that we believe we can work within the elements of the neighborhood, the administration, the housing, the opportunity, the environment, and the mobility on the platform of equity. So I want to quickly go through what we heard you say when we went deep into your engagement and read a lot of the comments. And I'm going to go through these really quickly, and then we're going to transition into the engagement exercise where we can actually have some conversations about this. So within the neighborhood, here's what we heard you say in the most simplest terms. We have heard that safe and attractive neighborhoods are the core of what Connect Jackson's vision is. We have heard that neighborhood organization needs more tools and supports from the city. We have heard that blight reduction and code enforcement improvements are a top priority. We heard that cleanliness is very important. We have heard that safety and infrastructure are our biggest threats. And we have heard that we need better access to healthy and affordable food. When it comes to housing, we have heard that quality and affordable housing is at the core of the Connect Jackson vision. We have heard that we need a variety of housing types to meet the demand for both rental and home ownership. We have heard utility efficiency is a challenge to our housing affordability. We have heard that there is a valuation and lending gap in many of our neighborhoods. We have also heard that rental housing conditions need city attention. We have heard that more senior housing and more new construction housing are also needed. Within opportunity, we have heard that access to opportunity is at the core of the Connect Jackson vision. And I believe access to opportunity personally is at the core of tackling some of our crime issues that we're dealing with in the city and getting to the true root cause of the trauma and disinvestment that have caused them. We have heard that we need improved access to opportunity in the forms of jobs and youth training. We have heard that the creation of generational wealth is critical. We have also heard that access to capital and lending is a challenge to business development. We have heard there is a desire for better retail in our neighborhoods. We have heard these are the main tools needed to overcome poverty and crime. We have also heard that cultural tourism is an opportunity pathway. So as we look at mobility, we have heard that mobility options are critical to supporting opportunity. We have heard that JTRAN needs to be more efficient and make better connections. We have heard that sidewalks need improvement and we need increased accessibility. We have heard that the desire for expanding our trail systems. We have heard that we need more and better bike facilities, and we have heard that new transportation options are needed to support our mobility. We have also heard that the condition of infrastructure is the biggest threat to our mobility. As a side note on mobility, we are simultaneously running a route study for JTRAN right now. And over the next couple weeks, we will be bringing to the public the scenarios that we have come up with to hopefully improve and provide exactly what was asked for here to increase the mobility of JTRAN. So keep your eye out if you're very interested in our bus system. That will be coming out into a public meeting in the next few weeks. Under environment, we have heard that we want to have access to high-quality parks and recreation opportunities. We have also heard that we should maintain these well. We have heard that we should reconnect to the natural environment to manage stormwater. And we have heard that increasing recreational connections to the environment is a big opportunity. We have also heard the desire for more biking and walking trails. Administration was a bit of a surprise to us. I'm gonna be honest. It was not something that was on my mind from past comprehensive plans that I've worked on with other cities. But as I read the details within a lot of the comments in the survey, this became apparent. So we added it as an element. We have heard that transparency of government is important. We have also heard that local government processes should be more accessible. We have heard that those processes should be easy for the public to use, and we have heard that red tape and complicated regulations should be simplified. We have heard that opening a business is difficult, and we have heard that some processes are very burdensome. So we did hear that loud and clear and included it as an element, even though that was one that caught me by surprise but shouldn't have, and I think is one of the more important things that was listed in this process. So that's a very quick rundown of our elements. We will jump into our breakout sessions here in just a minute, but really quickly, I do want to remind us that we are, if you'll go to the next slide, two more slides. We are here in the white box. We are moving on to the things that are below that after this meeting and after we consolidate and gather all the engagement. But the main reason we want to engage with you tonight and engage with the council and engage with the commission is to help us validate. Did we hear you right? Did we miss something? And to hear some of your ideas as to what else needs to be included. So again, a reminder, the timeline, we're here at the town hall meeting. Over the next couple of months, we will continue with meetings talking about these elements in depth. And we plan to bring a draft plan to the public in late fall 2021. So with that, I do want to turn back to President Banks to see if there are any questions at this time.
Council colleagues, do you have any questions at this time? All right. As we get ready to go in breakout session, since it's just 3 of us here, we'll probably float around to kind of hear and help in the engagement process. And hopefully we can get all this done in a timely manner. And again, let me just say how important this is to the comprehensive plan for the city of Jackson. You know, a lot of times people are complaining about When you go down Terry Road, specifically in South Jackson, how many pawn shops, you know, how many, you know, check cash places, you know, how many liquor stores they see. All this starts with zoning. All this starts with zoning. All this starts with planning. And as we approach being able to complete and put together a comprehensive plan that speaks to our future, it is important to have the people's input. And so thank you all again for participating in this process. And I'd just like to put this challenge here, even after we leave this meeting or this segment, I think that it's important that you engage your communities, that you engage, you know, people that are not here, and start having these same little sessions within your homes and within your houses. Let me take the time before I hand it back over to also recognize someone that's here. With Councilman-elect Vernon Hartley for Ward 5, please stand. Let's give him a hand. Thank you. All right.
I also want to recognize that Councilman-elect Brian Griselle is also participating by watching live stream. And we appreciate both Councilman-elect for their participation and jumping in mid-project. So now for what we're actually really here for today, and that is to get your participation. I'm going to turn it over to Gray Oots with Central Mississippi Planning to give us some directions. Hopefully we can all be very good students and listen well, and we can get into our breakout groups and get to work.
Good evening. We have already tried to separate you into your groups based on your agenda color, but in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to re-verify that you are sitting in the matching group. If you are unable or would like to remain where you are, that is acceptable as well. You will have the opportunity to engage on 2 different topics tonight. As Jordan mentioned previously, this is meant to be a very surface level, quick glance at these items. And we encourage you to come back and meet with us as we go around the city in the coming months to talk about your specific area of interest in greater detail. We will spend time working on one of these items each night or each day, whatever the schedule may turn out to be. So with that, we're going to give you 20 minutes on a topic with a moderator and a note taker. And then your moderator and note taker are going to switch, and you're going to get a second topic for 20 minutes. We encourage you to participate in this conversation. If you are uncomfortable speaking in a larger setting, then feel free to use those note cards and write comments. If you want to talk to us directly, you can put your contact information on it in a note. Please give me a call. We will follow up with you. There will be boxes in the exit in the lobby as you exit the building tonight for those. So with that, I'm going to ask everybody if our moderators and note takers will help us by holding up your individual sign. Again, we have yellow for housing. Administration is red. Opportunity purple, mobility is orange, neighborhoods is blue, and environment is green. Also, if y'all will try to...
Just before you get started, so that everybody can know, please explain what CMPDD is and what it does.
Certainly, thank you for that. We are the Planning and Development District for the Central Mississippi region. We serve 7 counties and the municipalities, including the city of Jackson. We do all sorts of things in addition to land use and zoning planning. We are also the area agency on aging with we provide meal services, legal services, adult protective services through that. We're the workforce investment agency for the area, so we assist with WIN job centers. We're also the MPO, that means transportation, and we assist with transportation funding. We assist with JTRAN through transit with those programs. So that's a brief rundown of CMPDD, and your council members also serve on our board of directors, and we are very appreciative of that. So hopefully everybody has start making your way. We're going to ask that you kind of consolidate so that everyone can hear and we don't have to speak loudly over each other. If you don't feel comfortable sitting super close to someone, that's okay. You can still spread out and save your space. Also, if there are children in the room, I encourage their participation. We want to hear from our youth and from our young people, so I am glad there are children here today. So if everybody will make their transition, I'll start the time, and we'll get started.
Let me also ask, and I'm sorry, all those that are here that are clergy, if you would wave your hands, all clergy that are here. Okay. Since it's a few clergy too, I would ask that you all would kind of float around to the different areas to hear the different input as well. Thank you.
You have about 3 minutes left with this group, about 3 minutes, so go ahead and start wrapping up. Okay, we have less than a minute, so begin your final wrap-ups. Moderators and note takers, you will be moving. Everyone, the community and the public, you keep your seat. A new group is coming to you. If anyone needs additional note cards or pens, please let us know. Okay, time's up. Thank you. Moderators will move. Public, you sit. Public, just remain sitting. You stay where you are. Keep your seat. Again, if you need additional note cards or pens, we have those available. Just flag one of us down and we will bring you some. Okay, and we will begin. Okay, you have about 3 minutes remaining. 3 minutes remaining in your conversations. Okay, we have 1 minute remaining. 1 minute remaining. Okay, everyone, if you will please wrap up. We're going to briefly summarize the results of this engagement. So I'm going to ask my note takers to quickly pull your notes together. They're going to give us a 2 to 3 minute highlight from each of our 6 frameworks, so we hear what the conversation was. So I'm going to give everybody just a minute to get settled, get our note takers settled in, and then we'll get regrouped. Okay, if everyone will make their way back to a seat. We're going to wrap this up. Okay. We're going to go ahead and begin our summary of this engagement. Again, it's going to be very brief. We're going to take everything into consideration. We're going to review all of the comments and the notes that are left for us. So do not feel like you are not being heard. We will hear you. We will read. We will respond. Patrick, if you would like to come up for housing, we're going to hear a summary of housing and the discussion that occurred tonight on housing.
Just real quick before you get started, if everybody can kind of get into a place so that we can give attention to these moderators and presenters that are speaking on behalf and reporting back based on what they heard. Hold on 1 second. Let everybody get situated so they can really pay attention and take it in. I think that this is very important. I think that this is the process of you hearing back what was actually what you actually gave to them. And I think that's very important because at the end of the day, none of us want you to leave here and say that my voice have not been heard. And so let's please give attention to this process. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So for the housing breakout sessions, there was a discussion regarding the importance of including the Latino community in the planning process. This community, maybe has been a lack of communication regarding housing and other planning issues. We also discussed hoping for collaboration between city, county, and state funding in regards to blight removal. And also when these blighted properties are demolished, there needs to be a plan so the land just doesn't sit there vacant. There's also discussion regarding mortgage and rental assistance in light of COVID-19 and issues regarding funding that need to be better. If there is funding that needs to be publicized, and it's important that the people that need assistance get that assistance. There's a question regarding if there's funding for senior citizens to rehabilitate homes that they may have lived in for a long period of time so they can continue to live in those homes and not be forced to move due to issues regarding rehab and rehabilitation. And regarding this funding, that it was felt that this needs to be drastically increased to better support those individuals. There was discussion regarding the current model for the housing rental market, and it was felt that it exploits the poor and transfers wealth from the poor to the rich. And there's another question regarding incentives for developers to build new housing, as the current housing stock is considered lacking. And if there's a housing program for down payment assistance to first responders and teachers. It was felt that there needs to be engagement with the many of churches in the city of Jackson to assist with fundraising regarding housing and improve access to those funds for those interested in moving into lower income neighborhoods. Also a question regarding the lack of access for disabled individuals for funding pertaining to housing, whether it be by loans or grants. Thank you.
Okay. Next, administration.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So I am representing administration, and for Group 1, one of the main things that was discussed initially was crime, gun carrying. The next thing was they wanted to know what is administration, and we discussed with them that it is the government component within itself, basically with city officials and anything public servant. Disconnect administration and citizens. So they feel that there's a disconnection between administration and within the community. They feel that they get no answer, busy lines, or the runaround with the process of communication, not being able to connect to a personnel within administration, and there's inconsistency in communication. We also discussed rental assistance. The water department, they feel that some of the administration within are rude, and especially to the elderly. Small Business Development Center was dedicated to dealing with the difficulty in opening small businesses, understanding the process to the business procedure. City of Jackson are owning a lot of vacant properties. We clarified that for them. More frequent town hall meetings was being requested, and consistent town hall meetings, not just the city council calling the meetings, but administration hosting town hall meetings amongst communities. And these meetings need to be in a reachable area. Reach out to elders beyond social media, basically meeting those elders who don't have social media or who are not technologically driven with social media and stuff like that. So meeting them where they are, basically outside of social media. Let's see. Create a timeline that represents these meetings. Positivity starts at the top. Media outlets should highlight Jackson in a better light than what is being presented. So giving them more acknowledgement as the city of Jackson to be presented in a better light than just negative. Group number 2, quality customer service from administration, mainly the water department. 311 service system, make sure that it is proficient. Homeowners administration should use this, well, they use this system, but they aren't aware of the process beyond their submission or request, so they would like to be a little more privy of what's going on with the 311 service system. More online accessibility with paying bills and completing forms to create an easier process. Water company process should be online. Better marketing strategies for our cities. Have a communication outlet that reaches all platforms and connect with everyone. So make sure that when it comes to attractions in Jackson, we are bringing people to Jackson and not giving them late notices when it comes to promoting events within Jackson. And one of the main key things that really stood out amongst the 2 groups was language access barriers. Hispanic community engagement is really needed. Starting something that connect various ethnicities amongst the community. So yeah, that basically sums up everything. Oh, and more recreation, and we also would like to focus on education because lack of recreation and education leads to crime.
Okay, moving right along the room, we'll move next to opportunity. If you can give us a brief summary of the opportunity discussion.
Both of our groups primarily focus on the youth. A lot of it to the point that we believe that we should have a JPS, a town hall with JPS to get the voice of the youth. Some of the main points were trade schools for the youth, financial literacy starting at a younger age, more access to a variety of sports, including golf, incentives to stay in the city after graduating college. There were several people who felt revitalizing and utilizing large vacant spaces like Metro Center to give the youth some place to go and something to do, and also bringing back or pushing JPD's DARE program. There was a suggestion to study another urban city and what they have to offer the youth. There were suggestions to increase their interest in the arts and theater, and outside of the youth, there were concerns about the nonprofit businesses, a lot of nonprofit businesses, and that we need to encourage more for-profit businesses to increase the tax base for the city. Ideas for keeping businesses from leaving the city, and ideas for attracting grocery store chains outside of the ones we have to increase competitive pricing. And like the other group, there were concerns to engage English as a second language communities and to get rid of the fear they have of speaking with government. And one more point was educating communities on how to get their voices heard by the government, such as planning committees. Those are the main points that we have.
Thank you. Next, mobility.
Hi. So what we discussed in mobility was upgrade, or considering a new transportation, and visibility within the trails, making sure that those trails that are put into place, they're well lit, because safety is the key. Park advertisement should highlight within the respective areas where parks are held, providing a historical content or area background so that when people visit the parks, it'll attract more attention to the community that they're in. Increasing bike lanes just for the purpose of being able to have access, not running into the cars, as well as J-Tran operation hours being extended with more visibility to J-Tran transportation, such as signage. Providing a transit day, which will promote the usage within the city for those that may not use it on a daily basis, and additional advertisement as well. Also including more J-Tran routes that would include regional transit with cities outside of Jackson, which would include Clinton and Madison. Infrastructure to the roads that have affected school rides and youth activities. Also providing a youth transit or revisiting the age restrictions to use the J-Tran, whether youth may need to make it to doctor's appointments and different aspects of that. Identifying new means for road repairs, being aware that we do sit on a volcano, maybe reaching out to some of the different cities that are affected as we are, seeing how they've used new materials to repair their roads. Also, revisiting the no truck zone areas where some of our semis are able to park and come through the city to also take into consideration the wear and tear on the roads. Also looking into the environmental effects of our mobility of the tree roots, that trees may have been cut down or may have died, but those roots still exist that have caused effects to our road infrastructure as well. And also considering online portals for J-Tran, as well as the 311 improvement, and also implementing an app for reporting tree removals, and also providing support to our homeless for their transit as well. Thank you.
Okay, environmental, right? Okay, we're going to hear from environmental.
Everybody, now we're wrapping up this evening with environment, and the two groups that we worked with this evening were very, very passionate about their parks and recreation. And it was interesting because individuals talked about mental health issues and the need for better parks, more quality parks, parks that are safe, parks that are free of trash. and parks that children can appreciate with activities that are appropriate for their ages. There was a lot of conversation about the need for safety, the need for public safety for these particular areas, and the need for probably having additional police presence, particularly in peak periods for these parks. The need also to maintain these spaces, the need to ensure that we've got public-private partnerships so that these spaces can be maintained over time. There was also mention about flood management and development issues. Quite a number of individuals had issues with flooding over time as development happened around their particular neighborhoods, and they felt that enough attention was not being paid to that. There was mention about the water crisis here in Jackson and the urgency of that crisis and the need for some attention to be paid to the quality of water that residents drink, because the reality is that we talk a lot about Flint, Michigan, but we don't talk a lot about Jackson. So that was something that individuals really wanted for us to highlight. Also, there was a conversation that there was need for qualified individuals to fill certain positions, because there are some areas within the city that they just don't have individuals. They just don't have the manpower, the staff, and so forth to work on these issues. So the need for positions, the need for qualified individuals to fill these. Also, what came to the topic, surfaced to the topic also, was the need for public engagement, further public engagement. People talked about the fact that there wasn't enough engagement, there wasn't enough information about whether it's a meeting or seminar, workshop, or something like that. So I don't think these individuals had enough access to information. Also, there was some interest in urban forest conservation and management. One individual talked about trees and the necessity to look at trees and the issues as they age. And finally, we wrapped up with the need for partnerships, more public-private partnerships, and the need for groups to get together and to work within their sphere to be able to accomplish things to impact our environment. Thank you.
And lastly, we have neighborhoods. Oh, there you are, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight we've all been talking about what we've heard the citizens of Jackson say. And so tonight, in a more intimate conversation, some of the things that we heard them say was that we need more presence and accountability from the elected officials, and also something else a little higher up. Let's follow the money trail from legislation. There's a problem with blight in the community, abandoned and dilapidated homes where squatters are residing now, and also the absentee landlord, where homes are being rented out by people from out of state who we really can't get in contact with. How can we help to get those problems solved with maybe possibly more or stricter fines? Also, equity and economic development, the need for a business presence in these neighborhoods, as well as parks where families can have their children grow up and, you know, continue to cut the generational curses that are going on. A stronger educational system was one of the things that was brought up, and we know that education surrounds our neighborhoods. The response time when we have natural disasters, as well as crime. So one of the residents said that we need to make sure that we are funding the police so that we can have safer neighborhoods. Thank you.
Well, with that, we have now heard from all of our groups and heard your input. We will take all of these notes, summarize them, and release them as well back to you so you could see the engagement process and how it formulates into plans and policies in those next steps. So we appreciate you participating in this. It may have been a bit outside of your comfort zone, and we greatly appreciate you having these conversations with us this evening. With that, that wraps up our side of the engagement. I'm going to turn it back over to Jordan. Ms. Hillman would take it first.
I just wanted to say thank you. I really enjoyed getting to hear the background conversations. A lot of the things that y'all brought forward are things that are already in motion, and that's really exciting to hear that some of the things we are working on are being confirmed. And there were other things that were brought forward that I had no idea that we had missed out on, particularly engaging with the Latino community. That will become a high priority. We hear you. I don't speak Spanish, but I will find somebody to help us with the language assistance, particularly on this project. So I hope we got your contact information. You're definitely heard. I did want to thank one last person and then turn it back over to Council President. There's been a behind the scenes person I failed to mention. She is also a House Rep, Zakia Summers. She has helped us pull this event off tonight. I just want to say thank you to her. She is acting in her capacity as our consultant. She works on our marketing project, but we just wanted to acknowledge her and thank her because she's pulled the pieces together to make this event possible.
All right, thank you. Want to let everybody know that the comments that you made in your breakout groups will all be digitized, and that will be made available to all of us, and I think also the general public, all right? And so nothing will fall on deaf ears. I think that it is important. I believe next steps is going to be that we will, do a continuation of this within different and various wards. I think that it is important that we all try to reach one to get encourage participation, because we don't want to get 5 months down the line and then start back over at square one because a group of people are saying, well, we didn't get a chance to give our input. And so this is a moving train. This is a moving train. I will say that, and council colleagues, I will put this challenge out here just looking at this meeting, and Jordan, just commend you for, adopting that all hands on deck approach, that when we, about 50% of the things that we, that I heard and that was mentioned are things that are beyond the council's authority. Because the state law says that we cannot implement any ordinances that exceed the statutory authority of the state of Mississippi. Especially some of the things when you're dealing with squatters, you're dealing with penalties when it comes to abandoned houses, and so I think it will be healthy that even as we come up with our legislative agenda, to have gatherings just like this, so that our state delegation and our state representatives will begin to see that it's not a group of 8 or 9 people sitting behind a closed door room that's saying this is what we want the state to do. But they would see, and with the help of media, hundreds of people gathering saying this is what we want our state to do. This is what we want and how we want our state to help our capital city. And I think that that is very important. And again, these all hand on deck approaches are very important because your feedback is important. And at this time, my yield colleagues, is there anything that you would like to say in closing? Yes, Councilman Foote.
Thank you, Councilman Banks. Thanks to Ms. Hillman and all the other people here, CMPDD, that were here to put this together, and the members of the community, and thanks for everybody that showed up today. I would like to add one point to the discussion of framework, the elements of framework that we covered: neighborhood, mobility, administration, opportunity, housing, environmental, and there may be another one, I'm not sure. But the another important part of our framework, we've got lots of challenges in Jackson and areas that we need to really work hard on, and a lot of people are working hard on that right now. But one really upside that we've got that we can't lose, can't forget about, and I know you won't forget about it, is churches. Jackson has a really vibrant, dynamic group of churches across the city, small churches, big churches like this one right here, great venues that give us a chance to come together and pray together and work together and help solve some of the community issues and all. And we can't forget about that. I think it's kind of a hidden strength that we've got in the future and going forward. And while they may not talk about it in the planning committee, it is important for us to remember that and to make sure that we take advantage of the great church communities we've got across the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lindsay?
Yes, thank you so much. And I want to echo my colleagues' sentiments in saying thank you to everyone who worked so hard and have been working hard for many months, Ms. Hillman, on making this evening so rich, and because I think we probably have mined a tremendous amount of good information here tonight. And I want to thank all of you who took out time on a Tuesday night to come and spend 2+ hours with us. I learned a lot and I heard a lot, and I'm grateful to you. But I want to also say that I think that this work is really important. It's called a comprehensive plan for a reason, because if you don't start by figuring out what the issues are and what the plan should include, then nothing gets done and nothing gets better. And so I am really grateful that we all took the time to do this tonight. So thank you, Ms. Hillman, and your team for organizing it. And also to New Horizon for hosting us.
Thank you. Did you have anything else to add? Next steps?
Next steps, keep your eye out. Over the next couple of weeks, we will start releasing and promoting the next series of meetings. If you had something you needed to tell us that you didn't get to tell us already, your index cards are welcome. There are boxes at the exit. They're not in any particular order. Just put the index box in any of the boxes. If you think of something after you leave, connectjxn.com, use the comment box, or send it to us at the planning department. If you want to send it by mail, just address it to us there. We'll take it any way you want to send it. And again, thank you for participating, and we hope to see many of you bring some friends as we start working through these projects going forward.
Thank you. Hold on. Let me acknowledge the front line when it comes to planning, and that's our planning committee, who are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council. And I know that Director Hillman acknowledged them earlier, but I'm gonna go the extra mile and just ask that all of our board members for the planning board, if you would please stand. I see our chairman back here, Mr. Booker, and I see one of the Ward 6 planning over there, Mr. Iman Thompson. Let's give them a hand. That is before decisions of zoning come to the city council, they go to the planning board first, and that is actually the front line. And I would encourage you in your communities to know, who your council person is appointed to represent your ward when it comes to planning, because those decisions are critical. And just like you hold us accountable, hold them accountable as well. All right. Are there any other colleagues, any other questions or comments? If I start doing public comments, then I have to do it with everybody. You have an announcement? Okay. You could go on and state your announcement.
To any young and be safe, y'all. Get vaccinated if you aren't already. It's not a hoax. Get vaccinated. To anyone who is able and willing, a brilliant young person named Jazz Taylor brought to my attention that Manhattan Park is filled with trash and needs to be cleaned. I plan to take my dad's lawnmower and to clean it myself and to cut the grass. If you would like to join me, I guess not, it's fine, I understand, it's kind of asking a lot, but I'm gonna be doing that tomorrow. If you want to join me, feel free to text me at 650-788-5234. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Let me encourage this. I know a lot of times when we see issues, we want to jump on it immediately and try to handle it, and that is encouraged. But let's communicate, you know, especially so that the community improvement can track those cases, especially when you got grass weed and overgrown grass. And then also communicate, because it may be a case where we are doing an assessment where we're waiting on federal funding, and so they got to come down and verify the assessment that we're doing, so that when they come down, they'll be like, it's all taken care of, and we missed the federal funding. But just communicate, and I think that will help us. Also, let me just state this. This is very, very important. 311, I know people say, well, I call 311 and I don't get nothing done. It doesn't do anything, so I'd rather call my council person. 311 is being used more as a data set or a data set than anything. If you look at the appropriations of money that went according to the 1% and the engineering plans that were done, one of the things that they used to allocate the priorities of what gets addressed with your 1% money is the volume of 311 calls per issue in the area where those 311 calls come from. So I know people may say, you know what, I called 311, they ain't come out here and they ain't back my manhole, right? Call 311 so that they can at least, and put it in there and report it so they can at least track, and you have that data, so that that data can be there. And then, you know, we'll see the dynamics of prioritization change, all right? So I just wanted to put that out there. With that being said, Bishop Crudup, is he still foreclosing? He's out? All right, what I'll do is, Father Rumbanks, I would ask my dad if he would close us in a word of prayer. Are there any other closing comments, Director Hillman? All right, thank you. And thank you all for tonight, and thank our partners, CMPDD, One Voice, are you still here? Connect Jackson, City of Jackson Planning, and all of our partners. We want to thank you all.
Let us all stand together. We all do believe that there is a God somewhere, regardless of our different faith. This is our prayer. Love, love, love. Patient, patient, patient. Humbleness, humbleness. Peace, prayer. And especially for those in Surfside, Florida right now. Let us don't take things for granted. Love, love, love. Amen.